evening, everyone. Welcome to the public meeting of the Mayor and Council. At this time, I would ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silent prayer and reflection as we think about our military personnel and the families of our fallen soldiers, as well as the victims and the families of the crash site at LaGuardia Airport. Please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we start, please note the fire exits to my left or right into the main hallway and behind you into the parking lot. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this act, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of New Milford have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Borough Hall and the Borough website, and notices have been sent to the Record and the Bridgewood News. The mission of this governing body is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy that will safeguard the infrastructure, provide fair, honest, courteous, and professional services, establish a sense of trust and accomplishment between all residents, and through research and prudent planning seek to minimize risk while improving our services. We are sensitive to the needs and satisfaction of our taxpayers, while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people, within the revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, economic conditions, or prevailing attitudes about taxation. At this time, I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilwoman San Houston. Here. Councilman Zeiler. Councilwoman Duffy.
Here.
Councilman Grotsky.
Here.
Council President Seymour.
Here.
Councilwoman Grant.
Here.
Mayor Pacino.
Here. All right. If everyone over here kind of squishes over a little bit, we'll make some more room for some of the people in the back who need to sit. When it gets warm, we're going to crack open the door. It's hot there. Okay, good evening. We thank all of you who have taken the time to attend this meeting, as well as those who are watching now or who will be watching it online. I would also like to thank the Brunetti Organization for accepting our invitation to publicly present their proposal to the governing body for the potential redevelopment of the Brookchester Shopping Center. Before we begin, I'd like to provide a context and clarity and outline key facts regarding our state-mandated affordable housing obligations. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will open to the public comment and questions specific to this presentation. Everyone will have an opportunity to be heard, and we respectfully ask that all participants adhere to the established rules of decorum and order. As many are aware, the Mount Laurel Doctrine established a constitutional obligation requiring municipalities within designated growth areas to provide their fair share of the region's present and prospective housing needs for low and moderate income households. Under the New Jersey State Constitution, municipalities must exercise their zoning authority affirmatively to create a realistic opportunity for such development. I've stated on numerous occasions that New Milford is not opposed to affordable housing. Rather, we oppose overdevelopment that places undue strain on our infrastructure, our school district, and our emergency services while significantly altering the character of our borough. New Milford encompasses just 2.2 square miles and is home to nearly 17,000 residents. Among New Jersey's 564 municipalities, we rank 387th in land area, 159th in population, and 62nd in population density, with approximately 7,412 residents per square mile. Our limited developable land is further constrained by geographic and topographical conditions, leaving significant portions of the borough vulnerable to severe and repetitive flood. To date, 40 homes have been acquired and removed through the Blue Acres program administered by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, with additional properties scheduled for acquisition and removal by the end of this year. Previous governing bodies, as well as the current administration, have worked diligently to ensure that New Milford has met its state-mandated obligations under rounds 1 through 3, thereby eliminating exposure to builders' remedy lawsuits. While we have complied with the law, we have also consistently voiced our concerns with both the statutory framework and the formulas used to determine these obligations. We've supported legislative efforts, defended our housing element and fair share plan, challenged the Affordable Housing Dispute and Resolution Program, the Fair Share Housing Center, and participated in independent and joint legal actions to seek relief. Although those efforts have resulted in setbacks at both the state and federal levels, we remain engaged with our state Senate and General Assembly representatives and will continue to pursue all available avenues, and we are working on creating new ones. We will never stop fighting to protect the Milford residents. We are extremely mindful that both compliance and legal challenges carry significant costs, ultimately borne by our taxpayers. However, we also recognize that noncompliance would expose the borough to far greater consequences. Round 4 began in 2025 and will continue through 2035. Today, the Milford state-mandated affordable housing obligation is 368 units. This consists of 258 affordable units of unmet need from Round 3 and additional 110 affordable units allocated for Round 4. We fully recognize our legal responsibilities as well as the presence of interested development parties. With input from our residents and in coordination with our legal, planning, and financial professionals, together, we will work to meet these obligations while minimizing the adverse impacts on the community all of us proudly call home. At this time, I'm going to introduce our borough attorney, John Shadanian. We are very lucky to have John. He's been working with us all through this. And last week, he was actually named one of New Jersey's super lawyers on the 2026 list, so we're very happy to have him. He's going to provide guidance to our council, and then after that, we will invite the Brunetti organization to come up and begin the presentation. John.
Thanks, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Essentially, the only thing that I really want to let everybody, make everyone aware of is that there is ongoing, what I would call litigation involving the borough and the program, which is the affordable housing mechanism that's now in place. And that has not yet been resolved. And because that has not yet been resolved, even though we have the Brunetti organization here to make their presentation tonight, there may be certain questions that you have of the governing body that they can't answer, because if they answer them, that's an admission which will be used against them later on if there is litigation, further litigation, because if we don't settle with the program, there's a chance that there could be litigation down the road. So I have, for those of you that have been here before, I have counseled the council to not respond to certain types of questions. So I just want everyone to know in advance that I may be doing that tonight, and they may not be able to answer your particular question because it would actually be against the interests of the borough and all of your interests as the taxpayers of the borough. That being said, I fully expect you to be informed by what is going to be presented tonight so that you know what's going on. Thank you, Mayor.
And I forgot to mention Bill Rupp, also with John Shadanian's office, and our planner, Paul Bridwell, is here with us as well. Okay. John, you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good evening. My name is Andy Noren. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Bakery, Drinker, Biddle, and Reith. I'm here on behalf of the Brunetti organization, the owner of Brookchester Shopping Center located at 830 to 880 River Road. We're here this evening to present the concept plan for the prospective redevelopment of the existing shopping center. I believe the existing shopping center is about 75 years old. So although Brunetti does, I think, as good a job as possible keeping it up, it is, in fact, an antiquated and strip mall, really, that is past its useful life. And so we are proposing to redevelop it with a modern mixed-use project that we think will be of great benefit to this community, and it would be comprised of approximately 150 residential units and approximately 27,000 square feet of retail and commercial space. I have here this evening with me Mark Weinberg. He's the COO and CFO of the Brunetti organization to my left. And then we have Jack Raker of Minnow Wasco, the project architect. So unless anybody has any questions for me, I'd like to invite Jack to present the preliminary concept plans and renderings that we've prepared for the proposed redevelopment.
Thank you, Eddie. Is this okay here?
Actually, you can flip it over there because the microphone is on that podium.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Is that okay? Everybody up there still can see? Just want to move it back a little bit. Yeah, in front of it. And get the microphone. Okay, I'm going to just sort of, is this on? Okay, good. The first plan that I'm showing you is a sort of a basement level plan. It's the parking garage of the building, and it's benched into grade. Along River Road, the grade is up high, and along Dorchester Lane, the grade is approximately 10 feet lower. So we have the ability to take this garage and bench it into the grade so that it's not visible from River Road. The back is an existing roadway that will allow us to access the garage. And we have approximately 174 garage parking spaces. Within the garage, there's an area for elevators and lobbies so that you can go up into the building. There's also trash rooms in the garage, so all the trash is fully managed inside the building. There's chutes that go down from the upper levels, go down to a trash room where the trash is compacted, and then it's brought out, left out. It's choreographed. Private hauler comes. It's managed. They know when the private hauler's coming. They bring the trash out. The private hauler picks it up, and then they bring the cans right back in. Now I'm going to go up to the next level. This is the main level of the project. So what you're looking at now is built on top of that garage. And this building sort of is an S shape. Along here we have a nice motor court entryway that's on top of the garage. It's the main lobby. So I'll have a rendered view of that in a little bit. You'll be able to see it. And then over the garage we have a nice landscape terrace. There'll be fire pits and grilling stations out there because you can't really grill in an apartment. So we put a lot of the amenities out on the deck. A nice indoor amenity that'll have a club room, fitness center, things of that nature. And then we have retail here along the front. Again, you'll get a nice view of that when I bring up the perspective. The building's a total of 4 stories. There's 150 dwelling units. And about total of about 62,000 square foot footprint. We have plenty of parking. We're providing 390 spaces. There 338 are required by residential site improvement standards. And the CDS is remaining. This is every floor of the building stacks up. Elevators come up through. You just take the elevator to your floor from the parking garage. We haven't laid out all the units yet, but in general, that's the shape. The roof plan, very simple. We're going to have a small roof amenity up top, place where you can go up. We'll have some lounge chairs, places to sit. Elevator goes up to the roof and gives you full access. So it's a 4-story building. This is the retail area here. This is really where deliveries happen, FedEx, UPS, things of that nature. And it's a very attractive building, 4 stories over the garage. And that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Is the CDS building untouched?
The CDS building is, yes, going to remain.
Is it Is it going to look like the CVS building, or is that going to be somehow matching?
We have no plans yet to make any revisions to the CVS this time.
Excuse me, could you all speak up so everybody could hear, so it's
Sure.
transparent? Thank you.
I asked if the CVS building would be touched.
I heard you. I just talking about everybody.
So,
Wait.
Yes.
We're going to open to the public for this presentation, so just hang on to your questions until the presentation's finished.
I'm just waiting for questions.
Not from questions from up here. Anyone else has to come speak, they can ask questions.
All right. Any council members have a question that John's going to say don't ask? Well, what about our plan?
I just wanted to follow up on what I heard was a question I had as well with regard to the retail. So currently there's a strip of stores there, restaurants, et cetera. And you mentioned a number, I think it was 27,000 square feet of retail, including the CVS remaining.
Correct.
So it'd be a net slight reduction compared to existing conditions?
Yes.
Okay. But there would be some storefronts. Can you just show on the plan again, just so it's clear?
Perspective here, the rendering, you see this is the storefronts here. They front that motor plaza.
Right. Maybe it'd be helpful to show on
The
the,
location of the retail.
maybe to show where CVS is now and a dollar store next to it and where new construction is proposed.
So, here we have the CVS. And I imagine the dollar store is right here adjacent to it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where we're extending and wrapping the retail. All the color blue here is retail.
Okay, so existing is the square, if you will.
Yeah, this is the
New is to the right of it.
How much retail is there aside from CVS?
There's an additional 8,000 square feet of retail.
Can you tell us what will happen to the current stores that are there while there's construction going on, if construction goes on?
Those buildings are going to be knocked down. Those retail establishments will be knocked down.
What is any accommodations for the current businesses?
For CVS, I'm sure there will be.
I'm sorry, for CVS, there will be accommodations.
the CVS obviously is going to remain, and I think the intent is that they would remain throughout the construction. With respect to the other stores, we obviously will, to the extent they would like to relocate into the new building, the Brunetti organization is going to try and accommodate them. The details of that have not yet been worked out, though.
Matt.
Yeah, I have a question for council. Mr. Doran, you mentioned this is a 75-year-old strip mall past its useful life. Past its useful life for whom and based on what?
So what I mean by that is that the capital maintenance and repairs for this building and a building of that age, the cost of that upkeep over time is too expensive for the rents that they're going to get over the long term. So over the course of the next, who knows exactly how long, but over the course of the next, 5 years, 10 years, there's going to be the strip mall is no longer going to be the strip mall that it is, and that's just the reality. When you get to the point of having a building that's that age, the capital maintenance is not supportable by the rents and the fact that there are all these small tenants that are there. So that's just the reality, I think, of where this property is at this sort of stage of its life.
Yes, Mr. Raker, can I just follow up also on parking? I think you briefly mentioned it. So parking is always an issue, certainly in this section of New Milford and New Milford generally. So there are requirements at the state level for multifamily residential. This proposal would be consistent with those, the numbers?
It is actually, we're providing more spaces than RSIS.
Okay, and again, I don't want to delve into too much detail there, but as your planner for the borough, I can say there are these statewide standards, 1.8 spaces for every one-bedroom unit, 2.0 spaces for two,
2.1 for 3, and yes, and then the retail has a required amount of parking to go along with it. We park the retail at the required amount.
Okay, so to be clear, so it's not one set of parking for both of the sets of uses. There's residential parking that meets the numbers in your proposal.
Yes.
And then for the commercial space, there'd be additional parking.
That's correct.
And the other parking beyond that?
The parking it's all shared. Right? In other words, but we meet the numbers for each individual use.
Okay. Great, thank you.
So the only residential parking is the garage. There's no retail parking in the garage.
Okay.
You give those numbers again. So we have 150 dwelling units. We have a total of about 27,000 square feet of retail. And we're required to have 338 spaces are required. We're providing 390 spaces.
And of those spaces, how many are EV?
I believe 15% would be required to be EV. That number is 39.
The 39.
We actually have, there's 39 that we get credit for, but we have an additional 819, so that's 3819. Our required EV parking is about 57 spaces.
And that's required by state law for, as you, so you have to basically make them ready to be EV, to accommodate electric vehicles. So 5%, I think is the state requirement over a period of time. So
all of the additional outdoor spaces.
Ma'am, we're not open to the public yet.
And of the 390 spaces provided, are those physical spaces?
Those are 390 physical spaces.
So just if I can explain for everyone from the public who's here, and especially for those people that haven't been to a meeting in a while or have never been to one before, when we open up the floor to the public, everyone's going to get their opportunity to speak. The council does not, in any meeting, not just this one, in any meeting, they don't answer until everybody from the public speaks and puts all their questions out on the table. It's not a dialogue. I just want everybody to understand that's not how a public meeting works. It's not a back and forth, okay? It's not a discussion. You're here to make your public comments. Once you're done with your comments, when you make your comments, if you have questions that are appropriate for the Brunetti organization to answer, I've instructed the mayor that he can allow, if the Brunetti organization wants to answer them, they can answer them. But the mayor and council are not going to answer any questions until everybody is done. At that point, when everybody is done, they close the public comment section, then they will respond if they want to any of the particular questions. I just want everyone to have an understanding that it's not going to be throwing out questions to the governing body and then responding back to you, because that's not how public meetings work.
Mayor, if I may follow up on one other point as well, just because in your prologue or introduction, you mentioned the affordable housing laws here. So just, I don't know if we discussed it in your presentation, a certain percentage of the units would be required to be set aside for low, very low, and moderate income households. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it's 150 units you're proposing currently?
Correct. Total, 150 units total.
There'd be a 20% set aside, which would be 30 units.
Right. That's consistent with what is being imposed elsewhere in New Milford and the entire state at this point in time.
Generally speaking.
Right.
Some rentals would maybe be 15%, but yeah, I think 20% is pretty typical.
Understood. In most actions like this, it's typically 20%. Okay, so again, that number, just I'm not sure.
30.
30, right? So we have 30. So 30 would be set aside, again.
Correct.
Income restricted. Okay, the remainder would be open to the market as rentable units, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
What is your estimated time frame on a project like this?
Yeah, I guess, Mayor, what's the question? Is construction? Construction probably would be at 24 to 30 months probably for a project like this.
Giving when?
That's probably a little bit trickier, but, obviously we would like to move forward as soon as possible, but I would imagine we wouldn't be starting for, at least another year or two.
Are there any other questions? Bill?
Yeah, on the units, do you have a estimate of the bedroom counts on those units in terms of how many 1, 2, and 3?
So we've made some basic assumptions early on. I think we used just to start 60, and we're doing all this with math, like just average size of units, how much square footage do we have. So we used about 60-40 mix of ones and twos. I didn't count the threes, but they're generally in around just slightly larger than two. We just put them on the corner or something.
Well, you're right.
But there's 20% of those are below and moderate units, and of that, the restriction is that less than 20 can be one bedrooms, more than 20 have to be three bedrooms, and the rest can be two.
Yep. So all the markets will be 1 and 2 bedrooms, and then the affordable units will be a mixture of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms in accordance with state law.
When you've calculated your parking, as you put requirements, you must have had some count on bedrooms then, right?
Yes.
Okay, so can you just tell me what you used?
It was approximately 60-40.
Okay, so
60% two bedrooms, 40% one bedroom.
Okay.
So doing the math estimates, what do you think a project like this would generate in school students?
So
I know there's a Rutgers number.
Yeah. So we have not done a formal study. I mean, what I can tell you from having done a lot of these projects over the last 20 plus years, is that generally speaking, the market rate units generate very few school-age children, and they're 1 and 2 bedroom units, they're 1 and 2 bedroom units, and in a project like this, there just is not a significant school-age population from those 1 and 2 bedroom units. The affordable units, of course, is a different story because there is a lot more 2 and 3 bedroom units. So there would be certainly some school-age population. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but we're talking about 30 units. So, I don't think that the number is overwhelming here, and we can certainly find out and look into the numbers a little bit and provide an estimate.
We'll look into the numbers, a lot of them.
Why aren't you prepared with that information? You were coming tonight that people would be interested, and it seems to me you could have anticipated these questions.
Yeah. So this is the first meeting that we're having. This is a preliminary concept plan. There's a number of steps that we need to go through with the council and the planning board before we get to a fully approved project that would be, ready to start construction. So at some point in the future, absolutely, we would do a formal study of the impact on the schools, and that's not a problem. But we're just not at that stage yet.
So you haven't done yet. I'm sorry. You haven't yet done an environmental study, for example.
No.
Study.
No, ma'am.
When would those be done?
I mean, it can depend, but typically that sort of thing. The environmental study or community impact study, usually that's done in conjunction with site plan approval. And a study about the number of students would perhaps come up during a redevelopment area designation, redevelopment plan stage. That's more the time frame that we would probably do that.
Council, sorry, but to Councilwoman Grant's point, shouldn't you have done that research before presenting to our full community to have an idea as to what impact your proposal would have on our school district and our entire community?
So I appreciate that. I think we're very comfortable that, again, the overwhelming number of units in this project will not generate a lot of students and will not have a significant impact on the schools. And we're happy to, again, at some point in the future, at the appropriate time, produce a study that would demonstrate that.
So based on what do you make that representation?
So again, number one, I've done dozens of these projects. Jack's done dozens of these projects. The Brunetti organization owns numerous apartment complexes. And there is, as the mayor indicated, there's a study that was done by Rutgers University that shows that there's very, very small number of school children that are generated by 1 and 2 bedroom apartments that are consistent with this type of product. So typically in this type of product, the residents are going to be younger professionals and a lot of empty nesters as well, divorcees, that sort of thing. Those are the types of residents that will be occupying, again, 120 of the 150 rental apartments in this building.
Any questions on this side? Okay. Bill, anything else?
No, I'm just calculating that.
Is there anything else you want to say before I open to the public? Or?
No.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask for a motion to open to the public. Anyone who has any questions, I'm going to ask you to kind of like just form a little line and come up to the podium. All we ask is you have to give us your name. Do not give us your address. And we will give you, it's like this whole law now, security and everything. So, and we will give you 5 minutes to ask a question or make a comment, and then the next person.
Motion to open to the public. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen of the public, we are now open for any questions or comments regarding this presentation only. Yep, and just speak into the microphone so we capture you.
My name is Maura Kelly. I've lived in town for about 30 years, so I don't have as much knowledge as others. But I do know a couple of things. 2 of them are based on rumors. One is, I understand new apartment buildings built in the state of New Jersey do not have to follow the local rent leveling percentages for the first 10 years that they are built. Do with that what you may. Also, would they be able to stay with the 2% rent increase? Then also, what is the process that you were talking about? At planning board, zoning board, and what's the best way for us to follow that so that I can come to these meetings and find out what's going on? Do I wait or do I go or?
John, do you want to wait to have you answer that question?
Yeah, I can. If she's concluded with her questions,
you concluded?
For now.
So I actually have a question for Mr. Noren. There was a question about rent leveling and the 2% increase. Are these units being proposed to be rentals or to be for sale?
Rentals.
Okay. So then for the rent leveling question, the answer is yes, that's accurate, that they're not subject to the rent leveling ordinance. Because they're new construction.
Correct. For the life of the finance, of the initial permanent financing up to 30 years. Correct.
So that's the answer to your first question. That's not a rumor. That's the state law. The process, just so everyone understands, there is depending on how this development goes and whether there are particular different methodologies for how construction like this can happen. If it's financed by the developer solely, then it goes through the regular planning zoning process. There will be planning board meetings, there will be site plan approval, as Mr. Norm referenced before. There will be zoning, if there are zoning issues, there will be meetings before those boards. I think there's a desire by the developer to have this declared an area of need of redevelopment. If that happens, that's a whole different process, and then there are multiple hearings that go before planning board, that comes before the council. Everyone will be well aware and notified well in advance. All you have to do is check the website. Our borough administrator is magnificent. Borough clerk, she will make sure that folks are on the website well in advance, and everyone is well aware of when those meetings are going to be. But it's going to depend. I can't tell you right now exactly what process is going to be followed, because I don't think we know.
Okay, I have one more rumor question. I understand that since you own Brookchester, and you own the CVS, that you have been allowing tenants of the Brookchester apartments to park in in front of CVS. Is it true that all of a sudden, since this started, you've decided, no, you're not going to allow that, and you've told tenants they can't park there? Okay.
So yes, there is a plan to curtail the parking of the apartment residents in the shopping center parking lot. I will say there is also a plan, and we've been trying to work with the borough to resolve the parking issues across the street at Brookchester Apartments. So that is ongoing and in process, and we're working with the borough to try and resolve that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Barton. I've been a resident for almost 48 years. I have a few questions. I'm wondering if the 1- and 2-bedroom market rate units all will be having dens, because we all know that the difference between a den and a bedroom is the lack of a closet.
Yeah. No.
None of them are having dens?
Not that at this stage, no.
Okay, because that certainly makes a difference with the school children. You mentioned with the garage entrance from the Dorchester Lane area, and that's an area that floods very badly, which obviously would impact all the cars under there as well. So that's definitely a major concern for the number of spaces there that would be impacted, and what happens to those people in the cars when it is flooded. Okay, other than that, I have a lot of concerns about the commercial enterprises. Okay, the way I understand, you're proposing 27,000 square feet of commercial space, but only 8,000 square feet of that is new, which means the CVS is 19,000 square feet. I'd like to know the current area in square feet of all of the commercial, CVS and everything else. How much is there currently?
I think it's 41,000.
Okay, so we'd be losing a significant amount of commercial space there.
Yeah, I mean that 41 includes the CVS too.
Right, so it includes that 19,000, but still there's a huge decrease in the number of square feet of commercial space. Can you tell me how that drastic reduction in the commercial area will benefit New Milford?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, again, this is an aging strip mall, and so the idea that this strip mall and the existing 41,000 square feet of retail is going to exist in perpetuity is not accurate. So you can't really compare. Just because today there's 41,000 square feet does not mean that it's going to be in perpetuity. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be replacing that with we think a really, beautiful, new mixed-use project with state-of-the-art, retail and residential. And so this is going to be an aesthetic improvement, and you're going to get retail that's going to last hopefully for another 75 years.
So basically I'm going to say this still has no benefit for New Milford. Okay. So our small 2.2 square mile community, we already have a population of almost 17,000. 34% of the housing units in our town are already apartment rentals. That's without the new ones that are going to be built, 160 or so that are going to be built next door by the ShopRite. We have very few commercial businesses. You may say that this strip mall has outlived its usefulness, but it is 100% leased. And those businesses have been here for a long time, many of them. So tearing down a strip mall that's being used at that capacity doesn't really benefit the New Milford residents. It doesn't benefit the business owners. It doesn't benefit the people who are employed in those businesses. We're going to lose those 14 small businesses. They're saying it's going to take, 2-3 years to rebuild. Well, they have no place else to relocate while that's going on. So those businesses will be gone. Places like Romans who've been there I'm not sure if they've been there for 50 years. These businesses, they're owned by our neighbors. They employ our neighbors. Right now, they're currently located adjacent to the 3 largest apartment complexes in our town, and they provide needed services within walking distance to those current residents, in addition to the ones that will be in the new apartments by the ShopRite. And those apartments at the ShopRite, one of the reasons that they were approved for that location was so that the 20% affordable units in that building would have some businesses, some amenities nearby for the people to walk to. These are going to be gone. So, my opinion, and I think most of the people here, these businesses, they're vital to our community's economic and social well-being, and we don't want to lose them.
Hi, my name is Mary Walsh. I just have a couple of questions. What's the square footage of each of these new apartments that you're putting in?
We're not sure, but the 1-bedrooms are in the 700 square foot range.
Yeah, it's very small.
The 2-bedrooms are in the 1,100 square foot range, roughly.
Because that's, well, you can't make the 1-bedroom apartment a little bit bigger?
We'll do a market study where we go to design units and we'll size them appropriate to the market.
And then what size is the 3-bedroom apartment?
Generally around 1,250, 1,200, 1,250.
Big difference in the last two. I think the 1-bedroom apartment could use a little more square footage. Okay, and what kind of heating would each apartment have, electric or gas?
We haven't done the engineering, but typically each apartment unit gets its own heating system. It could be an all-electric building. We're seeing that more and more.
That's important. That's a big expense, electric heat.
Right. Well, it could be like a heat pump system. They're becoming much more efficient nowadays.
It's still expensive. Plus the rent that we don't know what it will be.
It could be a gas system. Either way, every unit gets its own thermostat. It's controlled by the tenant.
Okay, and for the new businesses that you plan on having moving in, what types of businesses will they be?
We think they would hopefully be similar to the businesses that exist there today.
But do you have any idea? Do you put now resumes, so to speak?
No, this is very early in the process. And again, we would certainly hope to work with some of the existing tenants to find a way to keep them if that's possible.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christine Van Wee Brewster. I give my maiden name because I have lived here my entire life, 50 years. Also chosen to raise my own 4 children here in this town. So this town means a tremendous amount to me. This is my life, this town, and this is the life that I've chosen for my children. And I appreciate the presentation that you gave. But I felt like you were speaking to a bunch of potential renters versus the community that is going to be affected. So I didn't feel I learned very much how my town, my children's town, is going to be improved by your project. The main thing that I want to raise is I have children in the school system, and I understand you are not prepared with that information, and I'm sad that you're not. But, I did a dissertation on the Mount Laurel decision. I get how this works, affordable housing, and it is going to affect our school system. Absolutely. And I'm sorry, but you'd be foolish to say that it's not going to impact our school in any way. And as a mother, my daughter is a junior, so she's probably going to be out before this project starts. But I have twin 9-year-olds, so I'm around for a long time, Superintendent. And this is it. And I'm concerned. I am concerned, resident of New Milford, about the state of the high school, our grammar school and our 2 elementary schools. I am truly concerned. I think about this at night sometimes. Like, this really, as a taxpayer, this really concerns me. I also feel that New Milford is turning into either a $1.5 million house for sale or affordable housing. And I'm wondering what kind of community we're going to be in the next 10 years. What are we going to look like? Like, what are we trying to be? Who's going to live here? You know, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting mix of people. That's really all I really wanted to say. Just truly concerned about the resources on the school system and what you're, you know, I don't know if that you have any care or concern how the project affects the school system, but there are schools, townships that are going bankrupt because of projects like this. It does happen, and it's happening in counties not far away. So that's it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gail Ablamsky. I've been in town for 43 years. I'm originally from New York City, but I raised my children in New Milford. And
I'm sorry, ma'am, we can't hear you. Can you move the microphone closer?
And now my daughter liked the town enough that she wanted to be closer to Grandma, and being this is a beautiful town, and now my grandchildren are going to the same schools that my children went through, and you know, we wanted to stay the way it is now. I was asked to read this question, but I have something I want to add after. How do you plan to address the parking for these new apartments when there was already insufficient parking for the existing apartments?
So again, we are providing more than sufficient parking on site for the proposed use, and we do have a plan, and we've been working with the borough to resolve the parking situation across the street.
Okay, and the other thing I wanted to add, and don't be fooled just because these are 1- and 2-bedroom apartments that there's not going to be children, because my parents had a 1-bedroom apartment, and until they were able to get a bigger one, I came along, and I didn't get my own room until I was 11, so there may very well be children, especially if you have young marrieds moving in. They will have children, and then maybe they'll move out and, buy a house and stay in New Milford, but anyhow, we are definitely concerned about the overcrowding in the schools, because when my kids went through the school system, it was different. The schools were divided up differently. The elementary school was K-3. The 8th graders were actually in the high school where they didn't belong because they couldn't do anything. And then finally everything's like kind of good right now, but who knows what will happen down the road if we bring in, too many children. So anyhow, thank you.
Hello, my name is Anne-Marie Rogers. I missed the presentation which you had, so I may be covering things that you already covered. I've been a proud resident of New Milford since 1998. One of the main reasons I chose to live here was the close-knit community and the small, supportive classroom settings for our children. While our town lacks a traditional downtown area, the strip malls along River Road have served as vital community hubs, places where neighbors meet and local businesses thrive. Not one of these cherished areas is under threat. When my daughter began her education at Berkeley Street School, class sizes averaged 12 to 15 students. Today, I hear that number has nearly doubled to around 30 students per class. The proposed redevelopment of the Brookchester Shopping Center, which would replace beloved local businesses such as Roman's Restaurant, Dollar Power, Subways, China Walk, Elite Nails, etc., only stands to make overcrowding worse. If we add more housing, where do we expect to educate the additional children in a system already stretched thin? Are there plans for new schools, playgrounds, youth activity centers to support this growth? Without such planning, this project could create serious long-term challenges for our town. Instead of eliminating successful local shops, New Milford should focus on strengthening what makes our community special,
supporting small businesses, enhancing our educational resources, and developing more spaces for youth engagement. The proposal of redeveloping Brookchester should be reconsidered or rejected. What we truly need is not more housing density, but investment in our schools, youth programs, and local economy. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ronnie Lazarus. I've also been in town for over 60 years. So all of this is a big concern. This shouldn't be happening here. But I have a question, and that is in 2013, Mr. Bonetti came to the mayor and council and proposed upgrading the existing Brookchester apartments and explained how that would satisfy all our affordable housing requirements. There was no mention of eliminating the stores in the Brookchester shopping center. Why was that project abandoned?
I can answer that question, although I was not involved at the time. So that plan was, I think, a plan to redevelop the existing apartments with higher density apartments. Given New Jersey's their landlord-tenant laws here, it's basically impossible to evict tenants, and so there's no way that you can remove the existing tenants in order to build new apartments on the existing Brookchester apartments. So that plan, while I think it was well-intentioned, there's just simply no way to redevelop existing apartments with higher density, higher rent apartments. It's not feasible in New Jersey to do that.
Okay. It was a plan, and it was out there. So they must have done some work.
They thought it was a possibility, and I think they ran into reality.
Okay. Well, I hope you run into reality here too.
Good evening. McMacken, Madison Avenue in the Milford. To fall back on that, a few years ago, somebody was up here. We wanted to build 3- and 5-story buildings over there off of the boulevard. And you're using the same excuse that they used back then, the age of the structure. How much have you spent in rehabilitating this current building right now that you want to knock down?
Yeah, no, that's not something that we're able to discuss.
Okay. How many cars are you going to have parked in that lot underneath the building? What's the capacity? Okay. I have about 45 years experience working for the water company.
Please keep it down so the microphone can pick up his voice.
And having grown up close to the proximity to the Hackensack River, catastrophically, every 10 years, you're going to have a big flood. Where are you going to park all of these cars? Yeah. With 4 feet of water.
I mean, all I can tell you is that we are going to comply with all stormwater requirements.
So you have no answer where you're going to put 150 cars?
My answer is that we're going to comply with all legal requirements.
Right.
So
you have no answer.
So.
Okay. You got the same answer, the age of the building. I'll say the same thing to you that I said to these people years ago. My house was built in the 1880s. I better go home and knock it down because it's getting old. Just a question for the mayor and council. If you just give me a little bit of liberty here. You don't know how many people are going to be living in this complex. There's a proposal for 160 more apartments where the old ShopRite is. I did a little research back then on another project, and I did it again the other night. The average consumption is between 80 and 100 gallons per person per day, of which 80% of that is considered wastewater. Showers, dishwasher, washing the hands, so on and so forth. Suppose there's a catastrophic failure of the sewer system. Are they going to help pay for it? If it has to be replaced on a capital item?
We're not. Yeah. The council's not going to answer.
No, it's just theoretical on my part. These people here don't want to dig into their pockets, so these people can make money off more apartments. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily Totaro. I'm pretty much a lifelong resident. I was born here, left for a couple years, came back to raise my children here. This is an amazing town. You can see by looking at the people here and the people who can't even get in here that this is not wanted. The only people who that this is going to help is you. You are the only one who is going to gain from this. We are going to lose. And if you don't understand that, then that is a huge problem. Our schools are already overcrowded. There have been so many great points made today, and the questions I wanted to ask pretty much were already asked, but the question that you won't answer about the Brookchester apartments that are dilapidated, that I hear more issues about nonstop. You're not taking care of that, but you want to put in a brand new luxury apartments, and then you also, on top of that, claim that rent is going to increase because of you rebuilding, refixing, instead of making a new monstrosity Hackensack looking building in our small town. Okay? You won't answer questions about that. But how much are the rents going to be when those storefronts open? They're not going to be able to afford those either. So please do not pretend that that is how it is.
Before we continue, is it okay if we open the back door? There you go. If you push it, it should stay open. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Juan Zingarello. I've been living in New Milford since 2022.
Could you just repeat your name for me?
Juan Zingarello. I've been living in New Milford since 2022, and in the short 4 years that I've lived here, I've learned to really love this town. And I also want to just note that I'm a mechanical engineer by profession in construction, and I'm just curious to understand how you did you do a study showing that the building is too the current building that's there, that it's too expensive to maintain? Because I mean, we work with old buildings all the time, and I work with buildings that were built in the early 1900s. And they can be upgraded, they can be built. What were your findings exactly? Did you do a study, mechanical engineer do a study? How did you come up with that conclusion?
I don't think, again, we're able to get into the details of the finances of the project, but the reality is that
I'm not so concerned with the finances, but what were your findings in terms of?
But that's what it has to do with my client. They have certain income from the building, they have certain operating costs from the building, they have certain capital costs from the building, so they know how much the building costs to maintain, they know how much capital costs it is, how much revenue they're taking in, and they know over time what that trend is looking like. So that's the best I can do to answer the question.
That's all I had.
Hi, my name is Matt Pierce. I have a couple specific questions, and I'm glad we're on this specific layout. So this property is located basically at the center of the south side of town. It's kind of a hub for the community. It's within walking distance of a huge portion of our population. Is there any plan to improve this sidewalk situation? Right now we've got super narrow curb-tight sidewalks on a 35-mile-an-hour road and a dangerous entrance onto River Road. If you eliminate this entrance, you still have 2 entrances to this parking lot and space for about 20 more cars. You could put some sort of walkway from the intersection to the building so that people walking in from Brookchester aren't walking through a no man's land parking lot. I also wanted to ask, you said that it was a four-story structure. Does that include the subterranean parking or exclude it? Exclude. So 4 stories above River Road.
Correct.
All right. Just making sure my notes are accurate. You have no plans in this project to alter the CVS building. Do you have even nebulous plans in the future? Because I'm assuming that that indicates that it's a later built structure, but given the value of the land, that's 19,000 square feet. That's not being improved or used above the first story.
I'm not sure I understand the question, but yeah, at this point, there's not.
So nothing in this project
for CVS. I mean, there's an existing lease with CVS, so there's no plan for the near term to do anything different with CVS because they have an existing lease.
Okay. And then I guess my last question is, do you know if there are any limitations or incentives for the retail space to try and get in a healthy mix of useful retail establishments for the local area? Like, for example, a walkable distance grocery store would be a huge benefit to the people, not only in the building, but in Brookchester.
Yeah, and I don't think there's enough space for a grocery store here, and I don't know anything about any incentives to bring in retail tenants. It's not something I'm aware of. I can answer the first question that you had about the sidewalks. I mean, that is certainly something that we will consider and would be part of the redevelopment planning process and the site plan approval process. So those are certainly, aspects of the project that we'll look into and that perhaps the council will require and or the planning board.
Okay. So the last thing I have to say isn't a question. It's just kind of a public comment. I've been here for almost 20 years now, and I hear everyone around here who's lived here their whole lives, raised their children here, and they love the fact that they've lived here their whole lives. And I just want to ask you all to think about, will your kids have that experience? When they graduate high school and move out of your house, where do they go if there are no one-bedroom apartments for them? Where do they go if there's no affordable housing? It's full.
Are you either talking to us or
yeah. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mike Mulligan, the mayor probably knows what I'm going to be speaking about. I live near the apartments. I'm a block away, and he knows one of my biggest pet peeves is the runoff from no parking. You guys, I mean, the Brookchester been here since, I guess, after the war. Is that correct? It was built right after the war?
Yeah.
They're probably older than the buildings that you're talking about renovating. And for you not to eyeball what your existing property that you have, and you can't take care of a parking situation that you currently have. I have overrun parking onto my street. I'm not allowed to park in front of my house because of Brookchester Apartments, because you don't provide enough parking spaces as it is. And that's one thing that you should be improving before you go and look for. You can't work out a parking situation or improve the property that you existing have since the World War II. And then you're going to tell us you're going to be doing this to a new project that you can't provide enough parking as it is to the existing properties that you have. So what's your plan? I know you said you're working with the town, but what's your plan for additional parking for what you already have established with Brookchester?
So first of all, I mean, we understand that there's an issue. I mean, like you said, those apartments they're from like the 1950s, I think. So, you know, they were built in a different time. And as I said, we're working with the borough on a plan.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. 'Cause I have runoff. I'm not allowed to park in front of my house. I got to wake up every morning moving cars and worry about a police officer giving me a ticket because of the runoff of Brookchester Apartments. But you're saying, you keep on saying you got something in the works. But what is the plan in the works? What is the situation?
I mean, all I can say right now is we're working on a plan to install additional parking on the Brookchester apartment site, and we're working on that. And we're working with the borough.
All right. Then the other question, I know a lot of the questions it was asked already. That's why I'm not going further into anything. But I understand, like somebody mentioned about the flooding, in that you're talking about parking, bringing cars down by that. What's that street right down there? And if it does flood, how is these cars going to get out of your parking garage area? I mean, you have a plan for that when it does flood?
Again, when we get to the point where we're doing engineering and civil engineering for the site, all of that will be addressed in accordance with state law.
That's all the other questions were answered, but thank you.
And I can attest that Mr. Milligan's upset about parking.
Lorraine Monteculo. I have one question. What is that property currently zoned for? Is it just commercial, or is it commercial residential?
It's
the borough's business zone, which allows commercial. Residential is allowed in certain circumstances, but at a much lower density than this proposal.
Okay, so right now that's a commercial property.
Yes, there are many properties on River Road in the same business zone, the B zone.
Okay. My next understanding is that your tenants pay the maintenance at Brookchester over here. You don't support their maintenance.
That's not correct.
I thought I just heard you say that. How much, is there a percentage that you pay to improve that property?
So you're talking about the apartments or the commercial?
I'm not talking about the apartments. I'm talking about the commercial.
Oh, okay.
How much do you put into that building every year? Or do your tenants pay the maintenance?
So I mean, this complex works like most commercial complexes, where the landlord takes care of maintenance and then allocates a share of the common area expenses to the tenants. That's how most commercial properties work.
Okay, and may I ask you another question? Why has the upstairs been left empty for about 10 years? Why haven't you renovated that, rented that out, made more commercial space so that you can generate more money?
Yeah. So that space is not rentable. It's been that way for a long time. That's one of the issues that the Brunetti organization is having.
Not rentable because you chose not to renovate it?
I think it's an issue with the market, that there's not a market to rent that space.
Okay, and then my last point is I'm very invested in the school system of New Milford for lots of reasons. And you are in a very unique position. You own Brookchester Apartments. So I'd like you to do a study and see how many children are generated from your 1- and 2-bedroom apartments that affect our school system. I think if you looked at that, you'd understand why this crowd is here tonight opposing you.
You might have to escort me out. I just came from My name is Catherine Sedroga. I've been here for 59 years. Actually, since 1959, so 60-some-odd years. This is my town, and I think I've said this before. Mr. Brunetti himself, I think, would be ashamed of what? The greed that you were looking at. And I know you're not listening. You didn't hear one word we said, and you don't care because you're going to do what you want to do. That's fine, but we're not going to incur the taxes, not the people here. What you're doing is you're making this small, beautiful town into what somebody said was like Hackensack, a mess. Brookchester itself is disgusting. You have not updated it. You have people living in slums. You're collecting a high rent from these people. You have 4 to 5 families living in a 2-bedroom. What are you going to do about that? Clean that up first before you start a project that the town is against. What are you going to do? What are you going to do about the schools? The schools cannot take on any more children, and you're going to have the same problem that you do at Brookchester. Please look at me, sir. You're looking down because you don't care. You don't care.
I'm actually taking...
No, not you.
Because, yeah.
The person that can't speak for himself. Which I think is a shame.
We're going to keep it simple, okay?
Yes. I'm sorry. I told you you might have to escort me out. I just came here from Hackensack Hospital because my husband's dealing with cancer. So I'm all riled up. So I'm listening to all these people say everything that I wanted to say. But I'm aggravated standing there watching this man here. Didn't care less. This is his project. It's a mess. Brookchester's a mess. Clean that up first. Make that look nice. That's what Brunetti had right from day one. He loved it that there was a waiting list to get into that place. The nickname for Brookchester is Ghettochester. And now you're going to create something worse. You know, you brought in the crime in this family, into this neighborhood. It might come again. Now, who's going to pay for the cops? More cops. Who's going to pay for all the teachers? You're going to pay for that, not the people living here. That's all I need to say. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hey, Tracy Grandy. How are you? Hi. All right. I don't do really well public speaking. I'm also very short. So almost everything's been covered already, but so we talked at church about something called generations, and it's about investing in your future, right? This is all very upsetting. You get on the internet, you Google, you see all of the towns creating, right, this fair housing projects and what it's doing to the school systems. And so the one thing that I heard that disturbed all of us this evening was not to have the numbers and hear that the apartments won't bring in more children. And I work with children, and I can tell you that a lot of them live in specialized housing, in apartments. So I think that we really do need, and it doesn't matter to me who brings it in, some figures. And the reason we need the figures is just like the church, right? Generations. It's going to be generations. This isn't something that if it happens is going to be temporary. This is going to be permanent. If we fight it and we lose, it's going to be permanent. In New Milford, they're going to be our neighbors, it's going to be our children, and it's going to be a permanent impact in the school system. And as somebody that works with the school systems, knowing the impact on our children that school has, a lot of the schools have right now tremendous busing. Transportation is a huge money problem. The specialized schooling and therapeutic schools, specialized occupational, physical therapy for disabilities, huge impact on the school systems. We had funding cut after COVID. So if this housing, and I suspect it will bring children, especially the 2 and 3 bedroom, at least at the younger age levels in, kindergarten, first, second grade. And as families grow, they may not choose to necessarily move out of town because we're wonderful. We are. They may choose to buy a home and stay here. So I think that it's going to be imperative, and I think you have good intentions in doing the right thing other than maybe the bad parking, and you'll see that on your title insurance. Roberta can help you with that. So we need those numbers because, places like Plainfield, New Jersey, their tax increase was 36%. Right? So I don't, hopefully for us, we already have pretty high taxes. Like, we're giving it a go here. We're worker bees. But I'm not going to go through everything I printed out. A lot of it was already touched on with, the funding limitations and developmental pressures that hit. But this is information we need. What happened?
Ambulance. Police.
911. Someone needs to call 911.
The ambulance there? I was in the antique.
Okay. Great, ladies and gentlemen. We have moved to the conference room. There was a medical emergency during the presentation in the courtroom. The courtroom is being occupied by police officers. The person with the medical emergency was responsive and was sent to the hospital, so we are, in our thoughts and prayers on that one. So we are in a conference room, and we are going to continue with our open session meeting. Anything related to the Brookchester presentation will not happen at this meeting. That was to be continued. So, under proclamations, I have a proclamation for Earth Day. I will read it at a future date. No, we're open. We're open.
No, but public comment. The public comments, we need to formally close that.
Okay, make it a motion to close the Brookchester public comment.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, may I get a motion to appoint Dominic Jengo to Fire Department Company 1 and Sarah Levine to Junior Firefighter Auxiliary?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I get a motion to appoint Peter Torpy to Planning Board Class 4?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I want to thank Dominic, Sarah, and Peter for volunteering for New Milford. Under unfinished business, may I get approval of the minutes from the March 9th, 2026 work and closed session meetings?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have a few ordinances up for adoption tonight. First one being 2026:10. And when the clerk has the opportunity, I ask you to please read the ordinance.
An ordinance amending Chapter 10 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of New Milford, entitled Building and Housing, to add thereto Section 10-12, requirements for the issuance of certificates of occupancy.
Okay. The purpose of this ordinance is to ensure that all municipal fines levied against a property are paid prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. May I get a motion to open to the public for a public hearing on this ordinance?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen of the public, if anyone has any questions or comments regarding this ordinance only, now is your opportunity to speak. Seeing that no member wishes to comment at this time, I would ask for a motion to close to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Making a motion to adopt this ordinance on its final reading.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Samuelson.
Yes.
Councilman Duffy.
Yes.
Councilman Grotzky.
Yes.
Council President Seymour.
Yes.
Councilwoman Grant.
Yes.
Next one on the agenda is 2026:11, and when the clerk has the opportunity, I ask her please read the ordinance.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 8 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of New Milford, entitled Parking and Parking Lots, to add thereto Section 8.8, Parking of Electric Vehicles.
The purpose of this ordinance is to reserve parking at publicly accessible electric vehicle supply service equipment parking spaces for the parking and charging of electric vehicles only. May I get a motion to open to the public for a public hearing on this ordinance?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen of the public, if anyone has any questions or comments regarding this ordinance only, now is your opportunity to speak. Seeing that no member of the public wishes to comment at this time, I would ask for a motion to close the public.
Motion to close. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Making a motion to adopt this ordinance on its final reading.
Motion. Second.
Make it a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Samuelson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Duffy.
Yes.
Councilman Grotzky.
Yes.
Council President Seymour.
Yes.
Councilwoman Grant.
Yes.
Okay. The next one is 2026:12, and when the clerk has the opportunity, I'd ask her please read the ordinance.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 10 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of New Milford entitled Building and Housing, thereby amending Section 10-1.3 Fees regarding fees for lead-based paint inspection for residential rental dwellings.
The purpose of this ordinance is to establish fees for lead-based paint inspection for residential rental dwellings pursuant to NJSA 52:27D-437.16. May I get a motion to open to the public for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen of the public, if anyone has any questions or comments regarding this ordinance only, now is your opportunity to speak. Seeing that no member of the public wishes to comment at this time, I would ask for a motion to close to the public.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I get a motion to adopt this ordinance on its final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Make it a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Samuelson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Duffy.
Yes.
Councilman Grotzky.
Yes.
Council President Seymour.
Yes.
Councilwoman Grant.
Yes.
I don't imagine there's too many people against, inspection of lead paint, lead-based paint. Okay, we have 2026:13, right?
Yes.
Okay.
An ordinance amending Chapter 7 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of New Milford entitled Traffic, thereby amending Section 7-3.6, parking prohibited certain hours for street cleaning and snow removal.
Okay. The purpose of this ordinance is to add a provision for the removal of vehicles on certain streets during certain hours for the purposes of snow removal. This came on recommendation of our police department when we introduced it. And may I get a motion to open to the public for a public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen of the public, if anyone has any questions or comments regarding this ordinance, now is your opportunity. Seeing everyone is shaking their head no, I ask for a motion to close to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I get a motion to adopt this ordinance on its final reading?
Motion. Second.
May I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilwoman Samuelson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Duffy.
Yes.
Councilman Grotzky.
Yes.
Council President Seymour.
Yes.
Councilwoman Grant.
Yes.
Okay. So under new business, we have one introduction tonight. And when the clerk has the opportunity, I'd ask you to please read 2026:14.
An ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of New Milford entitled Land Use Regulations, thereby amending Sections 30-3.2 entitled Fees and Escrow.
The purpose of this ordinance is to correct the fee for the tax mapping listing of property owners to be consistent with NJSA 40:55D of municipal land use law. And if I remember correctly, it's 25 cents a name up to $10, right?
Well, it's whichever is greater.
Whatever is greater. Okay. Making a motion to introduce this ordinance on its first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Make it a roll call, please.
Councilwoman Samuelson.
Yes.
Councilwoman Duffy.
Yes.
Councilman Grotzky.
Yes.
Council President Seymour.
Yes.
Councilwoman Grant.
Yes.
Okay. The public hearing for this ordinance will be at our April 6th? No, April 6th meeting. Okay. Okay. New business. We have schedule updates. On Saturday, March 28th, is the New Milford High School Pancake Breakfast, sponsored by the New Milford High School Athletic Boosters. It will take place from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the New Milford High School cafeteria. Also, on that day, is our annual Easter egg hunt, sponsored by New Milford Recreation. That will be at 10 o'clock on Knights Field, so right across from the cafeteria at Knights Field will be the egg hunt. And there's no rain date for the egg hunt. On Saturday, April 11th is our Little League softball opening day, sponsored by New Milford Little League and New Milford Recreation. Parade lineup is at 8:45 a.m. in the old ShopRite parking lot. And we will march to Kennedy Field, and we will have our ceremony and first pitches and field dedication. On Saturday, April 18th, is America's 250th anniversary kickoff, sponsored by the New Milford Rev 250 Committee, New Milford Historic Preservation Commission, New Milford Environmental Commission, New Milford Shade Tree. Our first event will take place at 8:30 in the morning. It'll be our America the Beautiful litter cleanup. We will be cleaning up litter on all the ball fields and around the recreational complex. After that, we will have our Liberty Tree planting at 11 a.m. And everything will take place by the Borough Hall gazebo. So it should be a fun day. On Sunday, April 19th, Bill Ervolino is at the library at 1 p.m. It is sponsored by the Friends of the New Milford Public Library and Friends of the Oradell Public Library. And refreshments will be served.
Yes.
Okay. Were there any upcoming events that I missed?
May 30th, the Arts Committee has its performing arts event at the YMCA. It's in the afternoon, I believe 2 to 4. And it's free. It's going to be great fun.
And Mayor, our first anti-hate and anti-bias crime symposium in partnership with the School District Police Department, Prosecutor's Office, and Sheriff's Office will be on Wednesday, May 20th at 6 p.m. at the New Milford High School, New York.
Okay. Yep, I will update on the at our next meeting, and we'll also be adding Memorial Day, which is coming up, believe it or not. Yes. Crazy, right? And also, if you go to our website, you'll see this. This is all of our Rev 250 events so far scheduled. There might be a couple extra ones being added throughout the year, but you'll see this on our website, so you can mark your calendar. Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. The engineering update. The engineer has submitted revised bid documents and is awaiting approval from the NJDOT for the roadway improvement project for East Woodland Road, Grieve Drive, Ridge Street, and the intersecting roadways. The engineer is submitting bid documents for an environmental review to the Bergen County Community Development Block Grant for review for the Clinton Avenue, Huguenot Road, Arlington Road, and Yale Street improvements. Construction on the Main Street Improvement Project has paused for the winter season and will resume in the spring. The contractor has completed the fencing and guide rail installation and will be addressing punch list items and soil restoration for the initial limits of the French Brook Restoration Project. The NJDEP application for a minor technical modification was deemed complete on February 2nd and is under review. The 2026 municipal budget is scheduled to be on the April 6th agenda for introduction. Something I've been announcing at previous meetings, pursuant to New Jersey Public Law 2025, Chapter 72, the borough is transitioning the publication of all legal and public notices from the newspaper to the borough's official website, www.newmilfordnj.gov. Beginning March 1st, the borough is required to make the complete text of all legal notices publicly accessible on its official website, free of charge. Website publication supersedes newspaper publication. All notices must be available on the webpage for at least 1 week from the date of the initial posting. In addition, the borough is required to maintain an archive of legal notices for at least 1 year after the notice was removed from the current legal notices webpage. There's a prominent notice on our homepage for public notices. If you click on it, you're going to see everything that's current, and there's a link for the archive on that page. The Borough Hall will be closed on Friday, April 3rd in observance of Good Friday, and the next meeting of the Mayor and Council is a work session which is scheduled for 2 weeks from tonight on Monday, April 6th at 7 p.m. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Any questions for the administrator? Can I get a motion to forego council committee reports? Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Everyone has a chance to look at the resolutions. Any need to be pulled for further discussion and/or vote? May I get a motion to open to the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen of the public, if anyone has any questions or comments regarding anything related to the good and welfare of the Borough of New Milford, we ask that you comment now. Just say your name loud.
Katie Hill.
Before you start, nothing, we really don't want to talk about Brookchester presentation because of what happened, and it wouldn't be fair to the people that have left. So if we can save those till the next time they come, but if you have anything else.
I assure you it has absolutely nothing to do with my current conflict of interest.
Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I did want to ask, since the parking restrictions have been lifted in the borough of New Milford, I know it is something that perhaps may fell to the wayside, especially since there is an overflow of parking on streets in the borough overnight. I would ask the mayor and council to consider an option to measure side streets to see if parking can be restricted to one side or the other in cases where the streets are excessively narrow. Case in point, Terrace Avenue. There is a difficulty in driving down in a regular vehicle. In the event of an actual emergency, I do believe that we would have a specific issue. So I would ask that it be brought to light perhaps in the narrower streets of the borough, perhaps determine that parking should be limited to one side or the other, preferably on the side that is not containing a fire hydrant. I'm sorry. There will be a second comment after this from my friend over here because I'm not quite sure
we've done that. We can have that looked at. We've done that in the past. James, Elizabeth, Concourse, things like that. We've done that one-sided street parking because of.
In a neighboring borough, I'm there frequently, and they have a no restriction on either side, etc., no curbs, no sidewalks, whatever. I understand we have sidewalks, we have better opportunities here.
Right.
But I find it difficult to drive my small car in streets where there's parking on both sides.
It is, yes. It will be measured, and they go by the scientific data, the measurements, to decide whether or not emergency vehicles can make it, because, lots of people think streets are too small. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, but we will take a look at it.
Much appreciated.
I wrote down Terrace.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone
else?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure if you remember this, but there was a property at the very end of Terrace Place that the developer wanted to put a 28-unit apartment building on. Do you remember that? There was
that wasn't Terrace. That was
Carlton Place.
Yes, I live on Terrace. That's why she brought it up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carlton.
She knew that. I totally
Oh, that's right. So, no, we're not going to look at it now. No. That's good.
It's totally okay. Never mind. But I'll continue because I was just saying.
Just state your name for the record.
Sandy Kaminsky. One of the biggest issues also was this big snowstorm we had. Now, obviously, that's something that doesn't happen often. However, it made it even shorter for the cars to come in and out. And the trucks had a hard time because cars were parked on both sides. And it was impacted by the snow. And so I think that needs something to be addressed as well if we ever do come across snow like we had. We need to make sure that those areas are clear in those sections because of the shortness of it.
So I do know, especially after the first snowstorm, we did go back and we were removing snow, particularly in commercial areas by the schools and in cul-de-sacs and dead-end streets. Halfway through that second storm, there was nowhere for us to put the snow.
There wasn't, I know that.
So,
yes, I know that. But that it was just one of the issues.
Not you, but some residents had suggested that we dump it into the river, and I said, well, that's going to be easy for a DEP problem. You can't do that. Yeah. So, we do the best we can, and those back-to-back storms was, it was killer.
It was an issue pulling out.
Yes.
Because we would park in our driveway, and I could not literally pull out of my driveway because of the shortness of it.
Yep. Understood. We will take a look at everything.
Thanks. Casey. No worries. Thank you.
May I get a motion to close to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I get a motion to adopt resolutions 2026:99 through 2026:107? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The Earth Day proclamation, I'm going to read it on the 18th at our Reg 250 event, since I'm also doing Arbor Day, and Earth Day is going to be the 22nd, so it'll still be before. So I will add this to that event. Are we foregoing close, or are we doing close? We're doing close. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go into closed session. When we exit closed session, this body will take no formal action, and we are going to adjourn. So, thank you very much for being here. Have a great night, and
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you all.
thank you.
Motion
Motion to close?
Motion. Second.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.